I am burned out on this. I'll be honest with you. I did not want to talk about it. I have been texting with people even this morning about the Mountain West and Grand Canyon, and I came to a realization last night as I was watching the greatest basketball player that ever lived, Devin Booker. I'll say that every day on this show. I came to the realization I hate talking about expansion. I think it's bad for college athletics. I think I am worn out on it, and I understand why there is so much demand for expansion talk. Listen, you should be interested in it. Everybody in Phoenix, everybody at GCU, all of your great basketball fans, this is a huge story for you. It's a big moment in time. You should be interested in it. But I think most of us outside of the Mountain West, outside of the Pac-4 or whatever the hell they are now, I think a lot of us are just burned out on it. And so I come to you with this story to say, I'd like to thank Brett McMurphy for confirming our story again, that the Mountain West and Grand Canyon University are very seriously talking about a relationship. Now, as we broke first on this show, Grand Canyon already has been offered membership in the Pac-12, but the Pac-12 has kind of put the brakes on everything that they are doing expansion-wise. And frankly, I think Grand Canyon, and if you don't know GCU in Phoenix, they are one of the more savvy operators in small, what do you say? Small private, for-profit education. Grand Canyon started as a small university, and most people would have likened them to the University of Phoenix, and they are anything but that now today. Grand Canyon University is a behemoth. They are a faith-based institution that offers you a phenomenal education, a phenomenal campus in a terrible neighborhood, frankly. But they have this gem of a basketball arena where major programs outside of Arizona State, because we know that Arizona State doesn't need, never mind, you get, if you're an Arizona State fan, you understand that ASU did not want to play Grand Canyon for the longest time. But here, no, there. My point is, Grand Canyon's a great university and a phenomenal athletic department that now is playing very high-level basketball. A couple of things you also need to understand. Grand Canyon's on their way to the WCC, who just lost Gonzaga. Is it too late? I am told it is not too late for Grand Canyon to back out of or not officially join the WCC and join the Mountain West, which is, I think, likely to happen. Grand Canyon, I think, has aspirations of playing at the highest level of college basketball. And if you go into the Mountain West Conference, I think you're going to have a seat at the NCAA tournament table every single year. And I think that this is, while you may not view Grand Canyon as a massive story, I would tell you it has long, far-reaching implications. If Grand Canyon leaves that league, and they are, I think the WAC is in real trouble here. Because if you are the WCC, are you just going to stand by? Because you're probably losing, according to my sources, St. Mary's, who's going to end up with Gonzaga in the Pac-12. Are you just going to stand by and let your two best basketball brands and a potential third really good basketball brand at GCU walk out the door and not add anybody? Well, of course you're not. And you're probably looking at the WAC to backfill those spots. I think the WAC's days are very numbered. And this is what we're talking about when it comes to college expansion. When we look at these conferences that are adding and subtracting and really consuming other conferences, these conferences are going to die. Their stars are out of light. And unfortunately, the Pac-12 is where all this started. And the Pac-12 is going to get blamed for this. But I also think it's really important to point out, what else would you have the Pac-12 do? The Pac-12 is not just going to disappear. Do we like that the Pac-12 tried to murk the Mountain West Conference, tried to extinguish the light in the Mountain West? I don't at all. I thought it was a Bush League move, but I understand it. They're trying to survive. Now this move with GCU, The Mountain West, it can no longer have a conscience. The Mountain West, in my opinion, has to aggressively attack expansion. And Jake, I think GCU is the exact right target for the Mountain West Conference.
Absolutely. And I think that GCU, obviously, as you've just laid out, is a school and an institution that is coveted, and I think there's no getting away from the concept that, the Pac-12 has offered GCU. GCU hasn't accepted that offer yet. The Mountain West and GCU clearly are down the road. So I think this dynamic of the Mountain West coming out here into the market and getting schools that potentially would be fits in the Pac-12 could potentially be damaging to the Pac-12 down the road. But I think to your point about the Pac-12, like, I do think there's resentment towards the Pac-12. We're only here because you guys did a really terrible job managing your conference. And I don't mean just now in this whole expansion portion. I mean, before. We wouldn't even be here if USC felt valued in the old Pac-12. If the Pac-12 had been run better, if the Pac-12 had made more money, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And I think that's what's difficult about college football and college athletics when it comes to expansion, is it often requires somebody, either losing or no longer being in business, or a conference melting down for expansion or realignment to take place. And that's what's difficult. And we, as commentators and followers of the sport and fans, obviously, are tasked with this concept of, well, who are we supposed to feel bad for? Who are we supposed to root for here? Who are we supposed to empathize with? Well, clearly in this scenario, we're empathizing with the Mountain West based on how the Pac-12 went about it. But I would agree, the Mountain West definitely shouldn't have a conscience. The Mountain West shouldn't feel bad about going after GCU or going after any of these other schools that would be potential fits in the Pac-12, because the Mountain West has to secure its future. And I think we're well past the times of, hey, well, the Mountain West and the Pac-12 or any other conferences should work together. I think you should only work together if the business dealings make sense, which is why the SEC and the Big Ten are working together on some level. So I just think this concept, when people say, oh, well, the Mountain West needs to, hold off a little bit and let the Pac-12 kind of work through its TV deal. And I'm not for that. That to me is nonsense. I think the Mountain West should be out here doing exactly what it needs to do to survive and put itself in the best position moving forward. And I think GCU absolutely does that. They're a good fit. They're a non-football member. Revenue works, with GCU well. So I just think that the Mountain West, this puts them in if this were to officially get done, obviously, this would put them in a really strong position, especially on the heels of the conversation around getting Hawaii as a full share member to get to 8. And then where does the conference go from here? Because you guys remember what Gloria said, a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago, whatever that was, at Basketball Media Day. Like, we're not done. Like, we need to go and kind of solidify and build out the bottom end of this conference, or however you want to characterize that. So I just think GCU makes a lot of sense. And it makes a lot of sense from the standpoint that the Pac-12 added Gonzaga, and this is kind of your answer to that, if it were to get done.
Yeah, I think when you look at GCU and you look at the way that they've done business, I think they very much align with the Mountain West. And I think that I have a lot of respect for how Grand Canyon University has come through their growth process. And it's not easy. They've faced a lot of challenges. I think that going from a largely, online digital presence to a full-blown, their campus is spectacular. I think it's very difficult. We've been there.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we know Grand Canyon well, and their campus is spectacular, from fast food restaurants to basketball arenas to an unbelievable baseball footprint. All of their sports are well administered. It just makes sense. They're a good partner. And you look at now the fact that they're a perennial tournament team with Drew, and I just think it makes all the sense in the world for these two to get together. Now, as far as the Pac-12 goes, I think it is going to be this is going to be a very challenging situation for the Pac-12, because in talking to people over the last 24 to 36 hours about this, the Pac-12 is very much in a no-win situation, because you're looking at the Mountain West being very aggressive in expansion. And Brett McMurphy yesterday, the tweet that he put out, I mean, pretty much word for word reports what we have been telling you, that Grand Canyon is in talks with the Mountain West, and that Grand Canyon is also out to NIU and Toledo, which we broke on this show, for football membership only. So the numbers add up. And the question is, what is the Pac-12's capability right now? I think they're in a very difficult spot, because if you're the Mountain West and you can get this GCU deal over the line, which I'm told is closer than most of us realize, if that in fact happens, you're just stacking wins now. If you're the Mountain West, the Hawaii membership, I think, was vital. You had to bite the bullet on Hawaii. It was not an overwhelming win. It was not a game changer, in my opinion, but you had to do that. Adding GCU as a basketball only to this league is overwhelmingly a win.
And I think that, if they were to add, NIU and Toledo's football only members, I'm just telling you guys, that's taking options away from the Pac-12. Like, at some point, like, the Pac-12 is either going to have to substantially up its value proposition so that they can attract better members, right? They can attract those AAC schools that we've talked so much about, let's say, or other schools on that level. Because what the Pac-12 can't have is a TV deal that's underwhelming, and then try to take that to the market and not be able to add anybody and just be sitting here on an island. And I think there's some risk there. There's some exposure there for sure, because again, if the Mountain West adds GCU, adds NIU, and adds Toledo, they're probably done at that point adding members, but they've also just taken away several options for you in the Pac-12. And I think that's what's difficult about this in the Pac-12 situation, is that they are kind of in that chicken or egg scenario where, hey, do we go out and try to find membership first and then try to do the media rights deal? Or do we do the media rights deal and then add membership off of that and take the risk of the Mountain West adding these members before we can get our media rights stuff done? Or is their relationship strong enough with their media rights partners where they can have a handshake agreement that says, hey, this would be the deal if you went out and got, Memphis, let's say, as we've talked about so much, which most people don't think will happen, but this is an example. Hey, this would be the deal if you added this school or that school. If that's the case, I think that's best case scenario for the Pac-12. But I just feel like the Mountain West right now has a lot of momentum, and the Pac-12 is kind of sitting here behind the scenes trying to get this media rights deal done. And it kind of, to me anyway, feels like the Pac-12 is has one hand tied behind their back as far as expansion is concerned right now because of the media rights portion, which is unfortunate for them.
Yeah, and I think if the WAC loses, man, I feel bad for the WAC. I feel that this is, and again, I'm not trying to vilify the Pac-12, but this is the domino effect of trying to gut the Mountain West. And I understand why the Pac did it. It was an existential crisis. You couldn't get a merger done. I totally understand it. The WAC is going to pay the price for this. And I think it's just really unfortunate because I think you're probably going to lose. You're probably going to lose Tarleton. My guess is you would lose Cal Baptist at some point. And it's really unfortunate because you've just kind of put together this group of schools that are all, trying to build something and move together. And now expansion comes and guts you. And it's really unfortunate that this is where we find ourselves. And this is what wears me out about it. And again, I think if you're the Pac-12, I understand why you're trying to formalize a media rights template. Totally get it. I don't understand why you took the path that you took, in that you tried to put a kill shot on the Mountain West. That to me that's where all this happened. And I think the Mountain West, I don't know, is it correct to say that the Pac-12 underestimated the Mountain West? I think it probably is. Is it correct to say that the Pac-12 disrespected the Mountain West? Unquestionably.
Yes.
But I don't know I don't know how you fix it. I truly don't know how you fix it.
Well, I think it's either that they underestimated the Mountain West, which I would agree they probably didn't do that. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Or you said, okay, well, this is our only path to existence, and we're just gonna have to take this one on the chin as far as the Mountain West is concerned. Like, we're gonna have to go this route, and we're
Yeah.
gonna have to take these teams, and we'll have to deal with the consequences of that decision. But it is our only decision, and I think that's what's difficult is that you look at the Pac-2 at that time with Oregon State and Washington State, and their dilemma was more time-based than anything. They couldn't get a scheduling agreement done, so they had to figure out what they were going to do for
Right.
25, 26,
Right.
which is still, there was a lot of news yesterday about this whole home and home series that Washington State and Oregon State put together, and so they're still ironing that out. But I think they went ahead and made that decision because they were probably a little bit panicked. They were probably saying, hey, we don't really have much,
Understandably so.
Yeah, we don't really have anywhere to go here. The scheduling, agreement that we were supposed to have with the Mountain West didn't pan out. That didn't come to fruition. And so we're gonna have to go ahead and make this move. And we're gonna make this move damn well knowing that it's going to trickle down into the WAC or into, these other conferences. So, yeah, the Pac-12 is responsible for it. But again, I'm going to keep making the point that I always make when we talk about expansion. At some point at the university level, the longer your fate is in control by someone else, the worse off you are. So if the WAC or any school in the WAC has to change conferences or that conference dissolves, part of that is the WAC's responsibility because they are not in a place where they're financially secure enough to say, yeah, actually Tarleton's not going here or this school's not going there because we have a great value here. And that's what's difficult about the lower end of college athletics.
And you look at Oregon State's football schedule for next year, this is rough. This is rough. Cal, Fresno State, Texas Tech on the road, at Oregon, Houston. Okay, great. That's a great 5-game start, right? That's Appy State, bye week, Lafayette, Wake Forest, Washington State, first time, Sam Houston at Tulsa, bye week. They have 2 bye weeks, and then 2 games with Washington State.
Right.
That's a tough schedule. How do you make an argument you should be in the college football playoff with that schedule? You can't, but you couldn't schedule with the Mountain West, and you're not in a place now where you're going to be able to build a schedule on short notice.
Yeah,
that's why I think you watched.
Yeah,
when the relationship between the two couldn't be formalized, the Mountain West and the Pac-12, you wind up with a football schedule like that. And if you're Oregon State and Washington State, you're hoping that's 1 year, and that's, I think, what you've built here. But now you're kind of in limbo because you added Gonzaga, which is unequivocally a win. I mean, there's just no question. Gonzaga to the Pac-12 is a win.
Gonzaga.
Right? That's a great pickup for the Pac-12. Now you've got to formalize a TV agreement, and you've got to finish expansion so that you can build quality schedules, and you can put yourself in a place where you can say, hey, we're the best G6 conference out there. Our league should get the first nod when it comes to conference champions, because that's really what we're fighting for the next 2 years, right? And your biggest problem is year one of your new conference, you're not going to be able to make that argument.
Right.
So maybe all this goes for naught if a Super League shows up in 2031. I don't know. But I think significant changes will come to the college football playoff after year one. I don't even think anybody doubts that.
Well,
so,
and I also wonder too, from the player standpoint, like when you're looking, like in recruiting as an example, because recruiting obviously is a huge portion of success in football. So if you're a player looking at the Pac-12 and their current situation and their lack of ability to get in, how does that affect you? I mean, I obviously, schools like Boise State being able to get talents like Jinsey is great. That's awesome. They did a phenomenal job recruiting him and identifying him and being able to bring him in. But it does beg the question, like, obviously he's playing right now. Obviously he's not going to have to worry about any of these reimagined conferences and things of that nature. So I think that people wanna just rubber stamp this as, oh yeah, they're gonna put the conference back together. They'll be right back in the CFP conversation come next year, and everything will be amazing. And I just don't think anything is ever that easy in college football. It always takes, several years to get something done. It always takes, winning and winning a lot to garner people's respect and garner people's willingness to just put you in there. So I think that also plays a big role. Like if you're the Pac-12 looking forward several years.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting to see how all this plays out. Let's get your comments in here on GCU moving closer and closer to joining the Mountain West. Again, just to recap it, as I told you, I think several weeks ago, the Pac-12 very much would like to add GCU, but I also think GCU recognizes the landscape a little bit, and I think the Mountain West is a better fit for GCU than the Pac-12 is. And I think it is, it's one of those things where we're going to have to figure out at what point do we make a determination who's a better league? That's the question that I would ask. And I think GCU and teams like Gonzaga or universities like Gonzaga and GCU and NIU and Toledo are going to make those decisions for us, really.
And the media rights deal that the Pac-12 puts together. I mean, I also think that's a big deal. I mean, if it's $8 million per school per year, that's not great. If it's $12 million, that's a different conversation. You know? So I think that's also, it's the mix of members you have along with how much money you're making. That to me is the combination, because the Mountain West, without a doubt, was the best G5, conference that we had until all of this went down. So at some point we are going to have to define which one's better.
And again, I think that's why the St. Mary's story is so significant. If St. Mary's joins the Pac-12 as a basketball only, which, just about everybody I talk to thinks is a fait accompli, that's happening. I think if you get Gonzaga and St. Mary's, it only makes sense for GCU to wind up in the Mountain West. And I'll be fascinated to see what else the Mountain West, Gloria Navarez and her constituents there do, because I do think adding NIU and Toledo is a no-brainer.
Right.
A no-brainer if you are the Mountain West. But I don't think you're going to be able to compete for a Creighton, let's say, who would be in the Mountain West footprint in the Midwest. You're not going to be able to compete for a Butler in Indiana. Like, I don't think you're building some kind of basketball juggernaut. And the problem is you lost San Diego State, obviously, who has been a really solid basketball program in recent years.
Yep.
So it'll just be interesting to see how these leagues form and then what their brands are. Because I don't think there's any question. Football, right now today, the Pac-12, depending on who else they add, Pac-12's in a really good spot football-wise, because you added Boise. That on its own, to me, says, hey, everything's good. And I think when you look at the Mountain West, keeping UNLV was such a critical win for them. I think you have strengths and weaknesses on both sides. And I think adding GCU addresses a major basketball weakness and brings you a squad that goes to the NCAA tournament every year, recruits internationally very well. They have a really well-funded program that recruits globally. Like, that is an unequivocal win for the Mountain West if they can get GCU on paper. That would be significant. Let's see who is first in today. Let's go all the way back to the top. Hang on. Jay Chapman first. Like, we're still doing that. Yeah, I miss the days where this was just a small little cottage show.
Yeah.
In Jake's basement.
Yeah.
Or was it in my mom's basement? I don't remember.
Right.
Anyway, when we used to have a studio in the basement and it was first in. Oh, I miss.
Yeah, there was a competition and stuff.
Yeah, Loner Phone, who apparently, now this is controversial. Loner Phone essentially got himself excommunicated on this show by being a jackwagon.
Right.
And now today he rejoins the membership. iOS system like iPad and iPhone cannot subscribe on Monty's show. Had to use my computer. I thought Monty banned me.
Oh, so let me get this right. So all those times when you said I was ignoring you and we banned you and we hated on you, only to figure out that we were right, that you have to use a desktop to join membership.
Well, I think it's in the $sign. I don't know. Obviously I'm not a member of my own channel. I don't have enough hours in the day to do that. But what I would tell you is I think most people have told me you can join by hitting the $sign. True, false, I have no idea. Loner Phone, welcome back into the fold.
Nice job, dude.
Don't be an asshat. Lopes fan Gabe, like button, y'all, and others still interested in watching the beating of the dead horse that is never-ending conference expansion. Dude, 100%. It wears me out. And while I'm thrilled that it pretty much it's built into our brand now, because we usually have the lead on expansion stuff, I'm done. I'm so worn out with it. Welcome to the nightmare. Hello, big game in Orlando this week. Maury Alvarez, our great Floridian. Look at Florida showing up today. On my way to cast my vote for president. I am going to vote for a guy named Tim. Thank you. Write me in. Don't.
Monty?
Please don't.
What if we just put Marty for president as the writing candidate?
Please don't. I would not. Would you want to be president?
No.
I don't know that
No.
I would take the job in honor. You don't want me as president. I mean, it'd be everybody would have free Impossible nuggets and health insurance, and what would I be? I think I'd be a Marxist, a socialist, a communist,
a fascist.
A fascist.
Yeah.
A fascist.
A fascist, yeah.
I would never answer the questions that were asked of me directly. I would spin and talk about flowers growing in the backyard.
And it'd be an SEC administration.
Exactly
obviously.
right. Because this is an ACC show. So, main event. Hello. John Dry. Hello. Bronny James, master bricklayer.
Here we go.
GCU and the Mountain West are only talking. Yeah, I don't know about that. I am sure that Lopes won't make any decision without talking to the Pac-8. Well, there is also history I was reminded of, that there was a time where the Pac-12 would not schedule GCU.
Yeah.
And the was the coach of the, I said
Majorly. See what he did there?
So we used to do the Dan Marley show when he would win games and show up, because if they lost, that motherfucker never showing up. He just a phone dead.
It didn't work that day,
phone
man.
Dead. Trust me when I say. And I can only tell you what our sources in the situation have told us, that this is not a new conversation. And I think I was looking last night, and I think it was the second week of September was the first reference that we made to substantive conversations between the Mountain West and GCU. And it's been kind of a flirtation with GCU joining a different conference. I'm not going to say they were out for bid, but when they were talking to the WCC, they had other conversations. The question has been all sports or just basketball. I think if GCU had their way, they would probably want to do just basketball first.
Right.
I think if they are a basketball-only member and they keep their other sports in the WCC, because I think most people see the writing on the wall with a whack, with the WCC and the Mountain West, it's the right thing to do, in my opinion, because I know nobody cares about anything other than basketball and football, but GCU competes across the board. Their baseball program has been Andy Stankiewicz, what he built there originally, and
stud.
I mean, they've been really good. GCU is a really good athletic department, and they've had to fight. They have lawsuits that they're dealing with that frankly are not about the university. I was reading last night about two students filed a lawsuit against GCU's academic facilitator, if you will. And essentially their arguments were invalidated by the court. But it is what everybody talks about. Well, are they legitimate? GCU is a legitimate university that is actually a really good educational institution and infrastructure. The thing that I always tell people is you can read headlines or you can get on the ground and talk to people. And when you talk to people and when you understand the culture at GCU and you understand the athletics at GCU and you understand that their vision is not a small footprint in Phoenix, you understand why everybody wants GCU to be a partner of theirs. They're great business people.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. Because it's light years better basketball conference and it's not even close. I would not agree with that. I think doing business with the Pac-12 is a cautionary tale. You have history that tells you, because again, with all due respect, and I'm not even going to call people out by name, the people running the Pac-12 are the same people who've always run the Pac-12. And until you get on board with that, and just go back to Larry Scott. What did they do any different under Larry Scott that they just did to the Mountain West?
Nothing.
You still don't have a TV deal. And it was spelled out to me very succinctly several weeks ago, and I think I even talked about this on this show. From the day that Larry Scott and that conference were formed to today, the Pac-12 has done one thing exceptionally well. Spit shine their turd, as it was put to me. Because what are they always selling? They're always selling a dream. They've never been able to have a fully formed, fully functioning media rights, distribution, anything. The Pac-12 network never did it physically and actually launch. Yes, it did. Did that kid ever move out of his mom's house?
Nope.
No, it did not, because it never had full distribution. And they had great talent and great equipment and great technology and really bad leadership.
Yep.
So they've always been spit shining a turd. And they're always selling a dream.
Which is exactly what they're doing now.
That's all they're doing now. So until they get a fully formed, fully functioning media rights deal, they have this unbelievable broadcast facility, production facility in San Ramon that's top of the line everything.
And I would point out, you have some of the best real estate in the country.
Yes.
Like the West Coast is pristine.
In any way you argue it, for a G6 conference, they have some really good brands. San Diego State's a good brand. Not great, not elite at anything, but a good brand. Boise State is a good football brand. But the idea that somehow the Pac-12 is this unbelievable basketball conference is not the case. You want to say that about football? Absolutely. It's a really solid football product. Washington State, Oregon State, Boise State, those three together make a really solid G5 football conference. Throw in whoever else you want. That's a really solid conference. But it's not some elite basketball product. It just is not. So, as you were, Eric and Raleigh, if you ain't SEC or Big 32, you ain't real. There's something to that, because they're the ones making the decisions. Charles W., that's not winning, and I am in Phoenix. What's not winning? Payson Cougar fan, hello. Expansion is really tough on my waistline. I will say I have not put on the Callaway quarter zip in, what is this, the 10th month, probably in 8 months. Fits a lot better than it used to. So contraction's doing me well. Loner phone, take the blue pill. She will love the expansion. Okay. On brand. Habitual muffin. Okay. GCU has not been offered membership in the Pac-12. Okay.
First of all, I've never heard of you, and somehow you're a member.
I've never heard of you.
Okay.
I can only tell you so many times. GCU was offered, and how do I put this? I was told that the conversation that was had was, we'd like you to join our conference. And GCU hesitated because there's not a media rights deal.
Yeah, there's not long-term security.
Is that, hey, here's a contract, come join the Pac-12? Probably not. But is that, hey, we'd really like to add you as a basketball brand to our conference? And what's it going to take to get that done? Yes. I believe that's what happened.
Yeah.
I believe that's what happened. That's exactly what happened with Gonzaga in the Big 12. No, and you guys all told me I was wrong. There was none. How many people now have reported it? Exactly as we told you. So, Mr. Habitual, say la vie, my guy.
Knock yourself out.
Live your best life. The Marty program presented by Faith-Based Grand Canyon University. Exactly.
God bless.
Right. Charles says, what? I live in Phoenix and GCU is facing multiple lawsuits that include a federal trade commission. What he's talking about is, and I can't remember the exact verbiage on it. I want to say it's like a racketeering lawsuit or something. 2 students filed a lawsuit against GCU. Allegations in class action lawsuit against GCU. The 2 students filed a class action lawsuit against its educational service provider, known as Grand Canyon Education, which is different because most people don't know the business setup there. I know it. Grand Canyon Education is different than Grand Canyon University. They're 2 different entities. The lawsuit almost verbatim regurgitates the same claim the U.S. Department of Education made and the Federal Trade Commission later repeated, which is what you're referencing, about GCU's doctoral program while coordinating their efforts to disparage GCU. And then this goes on to state that the original lawsuit filed by the Justice Department and the Federal Trade Commission was invalidated by courts, who said, actually, that's not the case. So this is essentially the lawsuit that is being referenced here, because I had an idea that would come up. The lawsuit that's being referenced here is almost word for word a refiling of a lawsuit from, I think, 6 years ago that was totally invalidated by the courts. So am I that concerned about it? I'm not. And it's not my business, so I really don't care. It's not Bronny James, master bricklayer, Mountain West basketball is below mid. Okay, but that's your opinion. They also have a media rights deal, so they're more attractive. And if you add GCU to that league, their basketball is not below mid.
Yeah.
But that's fine. Loaner phone. Pitt picked up a new aid. Cool. Cool. Win tonight. Bronny master bricklayer. St. Mary's programs outside of basketball are garbage. Who cares? What does that have to? This is why I don't understand what people do. Why do we care about GCU track and field?
And why are you hating on the Mountain West so much, dude? What is the
like rub here?
What we're talking about? We're talking about them adding GCU and the implications of that, and all you want to do is say the Mountain West sucks. Like, what's the mission? What's the point? To say the Mountain West sucks? Okay, cool. You proved your point.
I don't understand why people. And listen, we see this all the time with Pac-12 fan. What I'm asking you is, why is it so personal to you? Why is it so personal to you? You think the University of San Francisco has some media market potential? I actually don't. The Dons are a great brand, but they are a very small player in San Francisco. There's not if we were talking about media market potential, does USF present you the Bay Area? No. Does it present you the city of San Francisco? Not really. Because it's a small university, which in the WCC, they're a great fit. But I don't think that if I look at the slate of teams in the WCC, am I chasing Pepperdine? Isn't Pepperdine a better brand than USF? I would guess. I would guess, but I think that we would all very much I think we would all very much like every university to do fine athletically.
Yeah.
That's not the case. That's not like, again, I look at the WAC. I think the WAC is in real peril.
Yeah,
I don't
I
think the
mean,
WAC is going to exist.
yeah, I think that's accurate. And I also think we need to accept the fact that not every university wants to do athletics. Not every university is like, oh man, we got to line item 20% of this year's budgets for athletic. Like, not at, like most schools aren't doing that, man. Like, most schools are like, oh yeah, we have athletics, but you're really coming here to do this
Yeah.
educationally. Like that's how it works.
Yeah. And I think if you don't have long sustained success, such as, I don't know, Gonzaga. Does Gonzaga deliver Spokane? Yeah, that's cool. But is Spokane, are you like, well, goddamn, Spokane? You're not, but they make you money. They have a rabid fan base. They have history. They like, so you get it. If you're USF, you're going to have to, you're going to have to really get, I don't know that you want to join the Mountain West or the Pac-12, in my opinion.
I don't think any team on the East Coast is viable for those two conferences. There's just not enough money there.
Yeah. Charles, I worked at GCU. Please tell me how innocent they are. Nobody said they were innocent. See, it's personal for you.
Yeah.
It's not personal for me.
And again, just want to point this out. Apparently today's theme is members we've never heard of.
Yeah, I don't know who you are, man, but
yeah,
which is fine.
which is cool. I just think that you're coming in here and like you're trying to die on this hill, and it's like, okay, cool. For you, that's the issue. Fine, great. Your point's been made. We're
you
not
don't
really
like GCU.
concerned. Yeah, like
it's not a like or hate thing for me. It's an analytical thing. I happen to know that they're a really good athletic department, and I happen to I know the people who operate that university. I've been exposed to them. I know them as business people. I don't know them personally, or because it's never personal to me. It's business. GCU is a great partner. I think Gloria Nevarez and GCU, that makes total sense to me. Those people operate on the same level.
Yep.
In my opinion. Harry Austin for $5. Hello, Harry. How's San Antonio treating you? How many times have we said the WAC is dead? A lot.
Yeah, a lot, dude.
A lot. And they are still around. The WAC will never die. Well, I hope you're right.
My concern, though, is that, and it stems from the Pac-12 point I was making earlier. Like, the WAC has survived by hey, we lost this. We're gonna go to the next one. We're gonna backfill. They've been really
keep
really
adding.
Good. Yes,
we're gonna take Dixie State and we're gonna make them.
But I think you're running out of options here. I think that consolidation has now knocked on your front door
100%,
and you don't have a lot of options left. And I think that's really sad because it's to no fault of the WAC's doing. Like, they didn't do anything to put this on themselves. But it's just a reality of the situation.
Yeah. The Chad Carter. Hello. Why do you guys have such a hard-on for the Mountain West?
Stay hard.
I thought this was an SEC, Ohio State, Big 12, Notre Dame, Chicago Bears show. Well.
Wow.
I think the Mountain West versus the Pac-12 is very compelling. I just want it to be over.
I think that, and Chad, your point's well made, dude. People take this stuff so personally. Like, if you go and look at, like, obviously we can see it. You guys can't see it at the level we can, but the comment section on our channel during the day, like when we're not doing the show, just like after the show, is just loaded with people who are just so mad about like the Mountain West and the Pac-12. And
it started with, well, I guess 2 years ago now, Oregon State fan burning their diplomas on our show.
Yeah.
And Washington State fan, we broke a story about that there was a faculty sit-in at Washington State over the lack of responsibility when it came to the athletic checkbook. And Washington State fan lost their ever-loving mind.
Yeah.
And told us we are liars, and that's not and then the story broke nationally 2 days later. And Washington State fan blamed us for it. We'll go talk to Kirk Schultz. It's not. We don't hate Washington State.
But my point is that I think that people, when you ask, hey, what's our hard on for the Mountain West? I'm not a Mountain West fan, and I say this seemingly every time we talk about it. But the issue is that Pac-12 fan takes it so personally anytime you bring up facts about how the Mountain West currently is in a better spot. Because what Pac-12 fan does is they say, oh, we got these great brands. Yeah, but we're not disagreeing about the brands you have. We're disagreeing about the fact that you don't have a media rights deal currently. We're disagreeing about the fact that you're running out of options in expansion because it's taking too much time to get the rights deal done.
And a buddy of mine texting me saying, your job is not to be emotional, Monty. Your job is to be analytical. That's why fans are fans. And
yeah, that's true.
I appreciate so much that you guys get emotional in our comment section.
Facts.
I would expect you to. You're fans. I have the luxury of my team sucks all the time. Like Notre Dame's terrible every day. So I don't have to get, even though Jesus is a Notre Dame fan, we don't win anything.
Notre Dame, our mother.
And I just don't have to get my hopes up. Although I'll share a quick story with you after I celebrate Calford giving us 20 Monty Show memberships.
He's back.